Hey, how's it going, everybody? It is Jazzy, the Video Store Sasquatch here, and we are doing our Throwback Thursday. I have one movie for you, and then we'll go into Breaking Bad, and then our movie report. Our box office report for the weekend is a very glim box office report. I know that much, and I know there's some controversy too, so we'll talk about that as well. So we'll start here with our Amazon movie, The Wrecking Crew. Estranged half brothers Johnny and James reunite after their father's mysterious death. As they search for the truth, buried secrets reveal a conspiracy threatening to tear their family apart. Directed by Angel Manuel Soto, starring Jason Momoa and David Batista here. Jacob Badon's in this. He's pretty good. Marina Baccarin is in this, and I believe it is Romita Fox and Frankie Adams as well are the two other leads in this. This movie is pretty decent. I've told you last week if you're listening that Send Help I went and saw in theaters with kind of what I see on streaming. This one I probably would have rather saw in streaming, or probably would have rather saw in theaters than the streaming. So it's a little bit opposite there. It's a classic kind of anti buddy cop movie here, where the two brothers don't get along, and then as they start to move forward and start to mend a relationship, as they're working on the case of their father's death, they kind of start to bond a little bit. And we see that we kind of get a lot of good humor from that with Momoa and Batista. Actually, do have pretty good chemistry together. Definitely worth a check out. Stephen Root's in this as well. He's the main detective. Let's see who else is in this. And Tamira Morrison, and there's just so many good people in this movie. There's, it's set in Hawaii. There's a lot of beautiful background scenes. It's a cool little story. It's fun. It's about an hour 40 minutes long, so you know that we like that because we kind of wanted to stay within that time limit here. Oh, it's just 2 hours and 4 minutes, so yeah, about 2 hours long. I mean, it didn't seem that long. Honestly, it kind of skated by with how fast paced it was. A lot of good action. The one thing that I kind of had weird on my stream, I don't know if it's on like everyone's stream, if they didn't. Sometimes they come about this is where they kind of mute down the action sounds because there's like a decibel level or something they have to hit, so like it didn't sound even the whole time as I was watching it, but it didn't take away from it much. There's, like I said, there's a lot of good action in this, a lot of funny scenes. This is definitely worth the watch. If you are looking for something to watch, it is on Prime, and that is The Wrecking Crew, directed by Angel Manuel Sota. And then we're talking about Breaking Bad here. We have our 4 episodes for the week. The last time we left off, um, we kind of saw where Jimmy's character was. We kind of finished the beginning part of the Kettleman story, and we are at the billboard part where his brother went out and took the newspaper and saw that he did whatever controversy at the billboard with his name on it that takes away from HHM from his brother's company, and it's just a whole silly rivalry with Jack with that. That's where we start off with on this episode. Alpine Shepherd Boy came out March 2nd, 2015. The old lady who he stole the paper from ended up calling the police, and I don't know if you know anything about the police, but they will expect you to follow their commands as he was being uncompliant, and also they noticed some of the burning stuff they were able to kick down the door, and that kind of leads him into another having an attack because all this electricity is hitting. We're not 100% sure if it's fake or false right now. I mean, I'm guessing it's probably false, but I'm sure there's more of a mental problem there. But he gets arrested and locked up. Of course, they're gonna break in there. That's a no brainer. He takes a meeting with a bunch of different people here. One has a fake cash with Ricky, who's trying to secede from America. Tony, who had the kinky toilet thing, and he ends up helping an old lady with the wills, and that's kind of where he gets an idea of going forward from that. Then we get the hospital scene with the doctor, and this is where we kind of realize that it's definitely like a mental issue here because she turns on the bed unknowingly to his brother, and nothing happens. They turn everything in the hospital, and he kind of gets everything settled in and stuff like this. So that is an interesting scene to remember. And the big thing is the doctor asks him, "Are you helping or enabling him?" Which is also a good question because of course, he's going to enable him or try and help him the best he can as far as he can because of how much his brother helped him. But how far is it he going there until it's a detriment to his brother? Good question there. And then Jimmy starts playing Jack about how the health is and maybe even taking over custodialship of his brother because that way he could cash him out of HHM, and Jack doesn't want that, of course. And Jack, so that's an interesting little game there. She gets Chuck back home. He tells him about the elder law pitch. Makes a deal with Chuck, like Slippin' Jimmy's gone, because he kind of realized that what had caused everything was the fact that his brother left the paper and saw that he was doing a billboard scam or some type of billboard scenario there. Either way, it wasn't very good because it still had the HHM stuff like I this said for the billboard. So, he is kind of right. There is kind of like a showmanship there too. So it's kind of an interesting little dilemma there. And then he starts watching Matlock for suit ideas, so we kind of see how Jimmy's mind works. And then he gets we see the Jello cups in the senior homes and the other stuff he does to advertise there. And then Mike was spotted. Um, so he earlier was following around this lady, and then he gets spotted by the lady and gets confronted. Cops show up at his house, and then he is arrested. So that's where we start. That's where we leave there. So now we're wondering what's Mike's going on. We kind of learn a little bit more about Jimmy and Chuck's relationship. We kind of learn that Chuck is definitely, at the very minimum, a mental case with this electricity because we saw a doctor turn it on. So we're fully aware that there's something else more going on, and you kind of get that more too as these next couple episodes go on with him. And we're going to learn more about Mike's backstory here. So Mike's backstory is the opening and beginning at the New Mexico meeting, and Mike's beginning in New Mexico with him meeting the daughter and all the daughter-in-law and all this stuff like this. And then um, that is where we are. She's very standoffish to him. A vet treats him, a veterinarian treats him of his gunshot wound that we see he has, but she doesn't see that he has. He kind of tries to ignore it the whole time. He explains the gag that he wants to play with the cop to Jimmy, and Jimmy eventually goes along with it, of course. So we're kind of seeing Mike and Jimmy's relationship kind of get better and better from where it started at the very minimum from the parking attendant's job and stuff like this. Definitely moved on to where Mike and him do have a little bit of a trust for each other, a little bit of something for each other. So they are working together now. And the daughter-in-law had called the cops, so we finally figure that out. We see the whole recap of what happened and why he left Philadelphia, which included killing the cops that killed his son for not taking the bribe or whatever piece that they were all taking. I mean, he himself is included in this, so that's interesting. And then we go back into the old rope a dope with the cops, and then Mike blames himself with the female. So we know what Mike's problem is. He blamed himself for his son's death, even though it was not his fault. If anything, like he just was part of a system that kind of corrupted it in itself. Like you see all the time, we hear about in the movies and stuff like this. And that's what we get with Mike, and now he's kind of blaming himself for this, and then we'll kind of see him trying to redeem himself with her throughout this rest of this season, I'm sure, because the next time we see him, they're like he's instantly like jumping in to help her. So that was that episode. We know Mike did whatever he's gonna be accused of doing or whatever, but it was for his son, so we kind of accept that. We kind of see Jimmy moving along as well, and we kind of see his like stance, especially with the people that he likes, like with Mike and all that. He like really will stand up for you and really work with you. So starting to see more of his character, and then we move on to Bingo, which came out March 16th of 2015. We are back in the courthouse with Jimmy and Mike, handing the notebook back to the detectives. So this scene is interesting because they're just basically saying that, like, "Oh, I found it in a random spot while we happen to show up to discuss this with you, officer." It's crazy how like this coincidence works out. So that's a pretty interesting scene. Mike makes a deal with the older detective. Basically, the older detective says, "Look, we have to investigate this. We kind of understand what's going on. It's part of the job. And when like 6 months, I'm gonna be gone anyways. The new guy will take over, and this is gonna be done." So we kind of learn that that's kind of it for whatever investigation there is for him. Even Chuck is seen as sustainable. Even Chuck is starting to realize it's not sustainable. when we get back to Chuck's house there, he is testing himself to be outside for like 2 minutes at a time when we were there. He's hoping to get up to 5 minutes outside, which is cool. Kim talking with the Kettlemans, explaining their situation, and basically we're back to the female Mrs. Kettleman basically saying that like I'm running the show, this is how it is, and Mr. Kettleman kind of takes it. She's definitely willing to sacrifice Mr. Kettleman or any other thing that she has to do to make sure that they are found innocent or whatever they have to do. So this is a crazy little end to this Kettleman story here. 30 years in prison is what they're facing. They decided they're gonna go back to Jimmy. Jimmy convinces them to go back to there, and basically the way he does that is taking the money that he had already spent, and the law, and he took out money that he already spent, got it back, and took the other money that they left him earlier and brought it into the thing, and found Mike and had him replace their money and basically return the money without them knowing. And then through that process, when you have to go back to Kim because Kim's the only one that can really like work out a deal for you, which is gonna be like 16 months in jail, which really she's going from 30 years, 16 months. Pretty good lawyer, pretty good deal. Definitely should take that deal. But we're back to square one with Jimmy. He's broke, he's sad, but he's persevering. The one thing that we can tell about Jimmy is he has a hustle. Throughout this whole series, we're probably going to see a bunch of hustling Jimmy, and that is a cool thing to do here. This is Rico, March 23rd, 2015, the last episode we'll be covering today. Jimmy and Kim, back in the mailroom, so we kind of see how he found out that he had passed the bar, and he went to his brother who he had been keeping a secret from, and then working that out, and blah, blah, blah. So we kind of see there. And then we go back to the Kettlemans, and Kim does a press conference with the Kettlemans, saying how they got the money back, blah, blah, blah. Jimmy meeting a client for a will. And still, he's starting to feel guilty about taking the money for doing this. And then even as he's like leaving, he's kind of thinking about something the lady said. She's like, wait a minute, allowance? What's this allowance? And then she explains this allowance. So now we're talking to probably the bigger part of this season, maybe even to next season here, as he is going to start working with his brother and working on this Sandpiper lawsuit with his brother against for the elderly people, where they're taking their money and they're using it, and they kind of explain how they're doing it through the rest of the show. And if they're doing it for here, they're definitely doing it in other locations, and this is a nationwide business. So they start talking about class action lawsuits and stuff like this. Is where we start to see the respect that his brother has throughout the law community, because when he first is mentioned, the only reason why the lawyer of the Sandpiper community even calls him back is because his brother is part of that and all this, blah, blah, blah. And then he just wanted to respect his brother's wishes. And we kind of see his brother in action too, because when everyone comes in and Jimmy's talking, finally his brother kind of clears his throat and explains his situation to these people. And that's about the end of the episode. It was where they're meeting at Chuck's. And I'm telling you, the show is picking up. We're 2 episodes left, I think, of this season, which I kind of like, because we'll do 2 episodes to end the season, 2 episodes to start the new season, and we'll kind of see where everyone's gone from there. Next week, definitely getting into the meat and bones. That's why I said that I think this is gonna follow into the second season with the Sandpiper 2, because we're at the end of this. We already seen the kind of conclusion of the Kettlemans, and we already seen that. So it'll be interesting to see how this kind of season all kind of boils down and comes down to in the ending, and then how the next season begins and all that. A lot of stuff up in the air, including like whether Kim is happy at her job or not, because there are kind of couple scenes and couple instances where we kind of see that Kim maybe not be as happy as we think that she is at her job. So that could lead into other changes too for the next couple seasons. So it'll be interesting to see where we go from here to there. And well, it'll be interesting to see how Chuck's mentality and mental disease starts to transform, because now he's like invested into something. As he's invested into something, we're seeing that, like slowly seeing that like parts of it is slipping as he's starting to get his mind entertained. So it'll be interesting to see that part of the story arc as well. So we are getting there. We're almost done with season 1 here. Yeah, if you're watching along, it's a good. These are very solid first 8 episodes. I mean, I think that Paradise is probably the best series 1 or best series season I've ever seen of a series. But I mean, we never know. We can always get better, especially with this show. Very well done by Vince Gilligan, and that is our Breaking Bad part of this. Now we're gonna move on to the box office part about it. I told you guys a little bit that there was a little bit of controversy. Earlier in the weekend, they had taken away Iron Lung off the top chart list. I'm seeing it now; it is on the top chart list. As a matter of fact, if you looked at Saturday, it said early tracking had Iron Lung being the number one movie of the week, and Send Help being number two. And if you don't know about Iron Lung, it's this uh, Marky Pliers or something like that. His YouTube page, basically, he's a YouTuber, did funny videos and made this very graphic movie about this game called Iron Lung, and it's supposed to be very good. I was gonna go see it, but I just couldn't get any seats. By the time I was there, like everything was full, and I just can't sit in the front. I tried it once. I didn't like the movie because of it, so I didn't go. But it's supposed to be a very good movie. It's supposed to be a very good game, a quick game. So yeah, I was definitely interested in seeing this, but I just never got a shot. It did 18 million for an opening, and like I said, this guy invested all of his own money, invested all this into his own things. This is a true independent project. You get 18 million, very good, very good job. Congratulations! And the number one movie this week was Send Help, of course, at 19 million. A little bit of controversy just there. You don't know. I mean, I they had him tracking like up like 3 million Saturday. So and then all of a sudden they just took it away from the charts, and then all of a sudden Send Help's 19 mil, Iron Lungs 18 mil. Interesting how that kind of played, especially since the director behind Send Help is Sam Raimi and kind of a bigger name and is a bigger studio behind it and onto an independent project. So interesting. And Melania had 7.2 million. Um, I've seen a couple of the little memes and jokes about it about empty theaters. I don't think this is like a theater movie anyway. I think this would have been a better streamer. I will check it out when it comes into streaming, just for the fact that it is about the president and the president's wife. So there we are. There, that is our box office report. We are still a couple away from being able to do live shows. And the moment we are able to do live shows, we'll have it up and we'll be doing just make a fun of a movie, just tear a bad movie apart together online. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you guys very much for joining and following and watching, and have a good rest of your day or night. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Comment your top movie picks for Throwback Thursday in the comment section, and see you next time in the cave.